Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Fury Warrior commentary video for Mythic Uldir. This time we're looking at Zul. This is where I go over the fight from a progression standpoint, kind of go over what talents I chose, why I chose them, and generally how I approach the fight. Zul's actually a very peculiar boss because the strat that we use and most people use to kill it is actually just stacking rogues. I think we had 6 on this kill. And that's simply because of the way the ads spawn, or more so don't die, so rogues can spam Fan of Knives, get max combo points, and then just basically spam finishes into the boss, giving insanely high boss damage, meaning that you can just basically push the encounter way before you're really meant to be able to. So for a lot of this encounter, I'm just tunneling the boss, not really doing anything. I don't think I actually get targeted by any mechanics here, so I'm not necessarily going to talk over the entire fight, because honestly, there's just not much to talk about. I'll talk over some key bits and maybe point out kind of what other people are doing. But for us, it's largely just going to be tunneling the boss. But let's look at the talents first. So as usual, starting top to bottom, I took Endless Rage, Double Time, Sudden Death, War Paint, Carnage, Dragon's Roar, and Siegebreaker. So on the first tier, much like other bosses, Endless Rage is just going to be a flat-out best talent choice here. It's the most competitive, and it's the best all-round talent in the first tier. I took Double Time because essentially you don't need to stun anything. Other classes will be doing CC if you do need to CC stuff. You don't necessarily need the Double Time either, but it can be useful if you force that at melee range. I'm taking Sudden Death next over Furious Slash because it simply sims the highest for me, and does have cleave potential. There is a slight bit of cleave here, even though we're trying to push the boss as soon as possible. We do want to be cleaving off the blood hexes and the crushers, so I've taken Sudden Death. Taking War Paint, there's not too much raid damage going off unless the Krogs, the little ads, get too many stacks and start pulsing damage, or if someone fails to soak a pull. Those are typically things which only happen if something goes wrong. It's not like a constant. However, you don't really need the Bounding Stride reduced cooldown for Leap, unless you get really unlucky with being targeted by mechanics, but chances are you're not going to, so yeah, just War Paint for me. Again, when looking at Carnage, it's just similarly to Endless Rage, it's just flat out the strongest talent here. It's just very strong. Now the next tier. As I said previously, this is predominantly going to be a single target encounter. Although there's loads of ads and there is a slight bit of cleaving when you're looking at the blood hexes and the crushers, predominantly we're going to be single targeting the boss. So I've taken Dragon's Roar here as this is the best kind of single target talent in this row. You can, in later kills, if you want to be a bit paddy and really push for logs, you can take Meech Cleaver, which works quite well, but that does mean you'll then be intentionally whirlwinding and AoEing, which is not what you want to be doing if you're progressing, because you want to be leaving up the little ads so the rogues can get combo points off them, basically. And then for the final tier, Siegebreaker. Again, a lot of the Fury talents come down to tuning, in the sense that Siegebreaker is just the best talent for single target and cleave situations compared to the other two. So that's why we're running with that. You can stick it straight into Zul or cleave off the blood hexes or crushes to get it onto Zul for when it dies. Yeah, it works either way. So as we're starting off here, we're actually going to be pre-potting with a strength pot, not a bursting blood, because the bursting blood will do split damage amongst all enemies, and we don't want any damage on the Krogs. We want it all on the blood hexer, Zul, and the crusher. So I'm going to reckless before I charge, because you get double rage from the charge if reckless is up. Charge in, whirlwind, and then I'll have enough to Siegebreaker from Zul onto the crusher and the blood hexer, and then rampage, etc. And then you carry on your cleave rotation. And basically how this encounter works is there's a little see the crusher just got a debuff there. The ad will only remain dead if you kill it whilst it has that debuff. So the intention is that you kill the blood hexers and the crushers whilst they have the debuff, and then if there's none up, you will just put all your damage into Zul. And you'll notice that my Siegebreaker just there, even though there's Krogs nearby that I could cleave it onto for just extra damage, it's all pad. So I'm just going to put it straight into Zul without cleaving it and just generally keeping up a single target rotation. And at this point, we're just waiting for the next blood hexes to spawn. See the ads coming in from the left there, which get dispelled. And that's kind of it, really. Just waiting for the hexes to spawn. Do it as much single target to Zul as possible, because this is your job, right? So we've got 6 rogues, and you can see how high they are on the damage. This is our job, to provide battle shout and single target damage. Waiting for the hex to come in there. Going to be doing as much single target as we can and trying to kick his interrupts. And only killing him when he has the debuff, which he does now. So we're just going to kill him. Easy as that. Back onto Zul briefly, but we're waiting for the next blood hex to get dragged in. Getting a little bit on the crusher, but we're not going to be able to kill the crusher. It's got a lot of HP. You can't kill it in 10 seconds. So dispelling that to get rid of the debuff. and then going on the Hexer. And I'm taking my second pot with this Recklessness, I believe. Yes, there we go. Because we need enough damage basically to push Zul into phase 2 before the next Crusher spawns after this one. So he's got the debuff so we can kill it. Very nice. And now we're just going to be pumping damage into Zul as much as we can. Quick little piercing howl there for the tank because he called out for a slow. Basically, the tank's got to kite these Krogs, otherwise they absolutely wreck him. I'd be lying if I said I knew why they kill him directly if they get to him type thing, but what I know is he needs to kite them when there's loads of them up. So we're now seeing the next wave of Blood Hexers, and I believe we will get one more Crusher, which we'll need to focus down and kill whilst he has the debuff. Otherwise, just single target the boss. Like I said, in subsequent weeks, you could probably like get away with basically padding on the ads for better damage. It doesn't help the encounter whatsoever. It just gives you a better log, better pass, if that's what you're into, which we all are secretly. So just waiting for this guy to get into execute range, and then we're just going to be pumping executes. Again, so you see, I've literally been targeted by nothing in this encounter, which is great for me because I've had no downtime, but it's kind of not very good for a display of what you might have to do in the encounter. I think the only thing you're really going to get targeted by in phase 1 is, I can't remember what it's called. It puts like a swirly animation around you and drops ads when it expires. So you'll basically need to leap out to the edge, drop it, and charge back in. That's literally it. And just going to pop Enraged Regen because we're taking quite a bit of damage here, and it's a kill. So I said earlier I wasn't going to talk over the whole video because I didn't really do much, but it's such a fast boss kill where actually I found myself speaking over the entire thing. So that's good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. There's really not too much to say on this. Your job is to just pump damage into Zul, kill the Hexer and the Crusher when it's got the debuff, and that's kind of it. You've got no dispels if you're not a Blood Elf. Yeah, not much more to say on that. It's a pretty boring fight, really, when all things considered. But Mithrax is slightly better, so I will catch you on the next one. Mithrax, cheers.